all that was Israeli propaganda. And the problem is Israel has continued to lie and lie and lie, and they've been caught lying. And they're the only ones that have actually been caught red-handed raping prisoners. And they've done it, and the people that raped the prisoners were now heroes, and they got released, and there was nothing that happened to them. And then you've got multiple, acts of terror, in my opinion, on Israel's side that would make October 7th look like nothing. So to me, I think it was a retaliation, and I think that Hamas is a resistance organization, and I think that Israel is a terrorist.
When did Israel kill 1,200 people in a single day and wound nearly 7,000?
100 plus were kids. I mean, so any one of those days would have been much worse than October 7th, but nobody really talks about
those
that.
didn't happen in a single day.
And October 7th is not nearly as bad as what they say.
Well, those didn't happen in single days, as you know.
Well,
in this video, Piers Morgan just took it too far with Dan Bilzerian and pushed Dan Bilzerian's limit to the point where he couldn't stop himself from shutting down Piers Morgan live on his own show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, which I can guarantee you don't want to miss at any cost. So let's watch the whole video together.
Because you've been very vocal about Israel in particular. Even when Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas, was killed by the IDF, you were out lauding him as a hero. To most people, he's the despicable head of a terrorist organization that perpetrated on October the 7th one of the worst terror attacks in modern history. What's heroic about that?
Well, I think when you look at it in a vacuum, it's a very different picture. It's kind of like if I, raped your mother and I kicked you in the nuts 3 times and then you punched me in the face and everybody just wanted to focus on you punching me in the face. I think that would be a very different conversation than when you looked at it, the whole of what happened. And the whole of what happened was Nakba. That's where it started. You have 750,000 Palestinians that got displaced. And then you've got multiple, acts of terror, in my opinion, on Israel's side that would make October 7th look like nothing. So to me, I think it was a retaliation, and I think that Hamas is a resistance organization, and I think that Israel is a terrorist.
When did Israel kill 1,200 people in a single day and wound nearly 7,000?
Well, I mean, you have... Nakba, there was, 15,000 people killed during Nakba. I mean, there was Sabra and Shatila. I mean, that was 3,500 civilians. Then you have 2014, they killed 1,500 civilians. 500 plus were kids. I mean, so any one of those days would have been much worse than October 7th, but nobody really talks about
those
that.
didn't happen in a single day.
And October 7th is not nearly as bad as what they say.
Well, those didn't happen in single days, as you know.
Well, I mean, you have, Sabra and Shatila, that was 3,500 people, so that was basically 7 October 7ths. And October 7th, I think the numbers get inflated a lot too, because you're not taking into account that it was only 650 civilians, and there was the Hannibal Directive that was employed, and the Hannibal Directive is when the military is basically killing civilians so that they aren't taken as hostages. And, that had to be hundreds of people, so I would argue that it was less than 500 civilians that were killed, and to me, that is much less than what, the Israelis have been doing to the Palestinians.
But you said
the year when October 7th happened, they had killed hundreds of Palestinians that year. It was the bloodiest year for kids. So that was a reply to what had been happening.
But when you say that October 7th wasn't as bad as people have said, what do you mean by that? Because from Hamas's own boasting through their GoPro cameras, they mutilated, burned alive, raped and abused, beheaded some people, set fire to homes. They kidnapped babies, they kidnapped Holocaust survivors, grandparents. They did just about every act of depravity it is possible to do. And they didn't just do it, they gleefully posted it on social media and the internet so that we could all watch in real time the horrors that they were perpetrating. It's hard to imagine a more horrific act than what happened that day. Why would you try to downplay it?
Well, there was only 2 babies killed from what I was told, and one was in the hospital, and the other one was shot by a bullet. There was no babies in ovens. There was no, beheaded people that I saw. The rapes were disproven. So all that was Israeli propaganda. And the problem is Israel has continued to lie and lie and lie, and they've been caught lying. And they're the only ones that have actually been caught red-handed raping prisoners. And they've done it, and the people that raped the prisoners were now heroes, and they got released, and there was nothing that happened to them. So I think it's very hypocritical to focus on things that they're doing and then try and blame them, on Hamas or the Palestinians.
It's interesting because
it's just, to me, total bullshit. It's just Israeli propaganda.
Like, can you just see how Piers Morgan is getting literally uncontrolled? You can see from his body movements and expression that he is so desperate and literally showing his vulnerability. It's clear that whatever Dan Bilzerian is saying, Piers Morgan just cannot listen to it anymore. By looking at his face, it feels like he cannot wait for Dan to stop so he can start talking and keep defending Israel as a paid agent of an Israeli agency. So first, listen to Piers Morgan and comment your opinions down below.
Actually been caught red-handed raping prisoners, and they've done it, and the people that raped the prisoners were now heroes, and they got released, and there was nothing that happened to them. So I think it's very hypocritical to focus on things that they're doing and then try and blame them, on Hamas or the Palestinians.
It's interesting because
it's just, to me, total bullshit. It's just Israeli propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, listen, many people will listen to you and think that what you're spewing is bullshit propaganda from the other side. And the reason I say that is you say there was no raping or abuse of women, and yet the UN Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict, Pramila Patten, reported in March this year that there was clear and convincing information that Israeli hostages in Gaza experienced sexual violence, including rape, sexualized torture, and cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment, and reasonable grounds to believe such abuse is ongoing. There was also reasonable grounds to believe that conflict-related sexual violence occurred during the 7th of October attacks in multiple locations across Gaza periphery, including rape and gang rape in at least 3 locations. So when you say it didn't happen, what you're really saying is you think that the United Nations report into all this, which established it absolutely did happen and was horrific, is what? Is a pack of lies? And if so, why would the United Nations lie?
Look, I wasn't there, but I have, seen articles that said that it did not happen. So, if it did happen, that's terrible. And I think that's, atrocious. I don't ever believe in rape, but, during, Sabra and Shatia, there was a, girl raped in front of her father. And, that's happened on the other side numerous times. I mean, it happened in the prison. I mean, they were literally rioting because they felt like they had the right to rape these prisoners. So to me, I think it's a bit hypocritical. You can't believe that you have the right to rape prisoners and then complain about them raping, your civilians as well. So I don't think it just can only go one way. I think it's atrocious on both sides.
You said Hamas are not terrorists, they're an army fighting for their country against the worst terror organization on the planet. And yet Hamas were given power in Gaza in 2005. They were given billions of dollars, a lot of it in a very suspect manner by Benjamin Netanyahu and his government, because he wanted to create a rift between Palestinian groups, and I completely accept that. But there's no doubt from what has now emerged that Hamas spent most of that money not on benefiting the lives of Palestinian people in Gaza, but on building an elaborate tunnel system and arming themselves to the teeth so that they could perpetrate this act of horror on October the 7th in a strike against Israel that they hope would decapitate Israel. I'm just curious why you would go out of your way. You say you've read things, but you're a guy of big influence. You've got a big following, 30-odd million people on Instagram. With respect, and I say this respectfully, I understand why you want to support the Palestinian cause, and I'm sure there'll be many points of agreement we would have on that. But just to say, well, I read somewhere there were no rapes and abuse, it doesn't seem to me like you've really studied, or perhaps don't even want to study, the facts about all this, because it would go against your own narrative. Would that be fair?
I mean, look, I got no dog in this fight, Piers. I'm not Palestinian. I'm not Muslim. I'm just saying what I believe is right. And let's just say there was rapes. I mean, I think that's terrible. But like I said, they are, an occupied state, and they're operating in apartheid. So when you are kept in an open air prison, there's going to be resistance, and how that resistance manifests itself is, it's going to be violent eventually. I mean, if you kill enough people and you take enough land and you treat people like second-class citizens, and and you're stealing land in the West Bank, and you're just basically, encroaching these people's human rights on a daily basis, there's going to be repercussions. So, I'm not going to be the judge or jury, and I'm not going to condemn these people for fighting back. I think nobody had an issue with, South African apartheid and their resistance. So I don't know why there's an issue with the resistance in the clear apartheid that's going on here.
You went on Patrick Bet-Davis' podcast. He's a friend of this show. You said the Jews killed JFK and that Israel wanted October the 7th to happen so that Israel, had a reason to take the land. Let's just discuss those two things. What do you mean the Jews killed JFK?
So I believe that was an Israeli Mossad operation, and they've committed multiple false flag attacks. I mean, they've, the USS Liberty, you've got the Levin affair. I mean, so they've got a history of doing this, and I don't think it's crazy to think that they were involved in that assassination, and that's the reason that Trump didn't want to, release those files. And I think clearly it had to be embarrassing. Otherwise, why wouldn't he want to release it? And that's the only thing that I could think of that would be embarrassing, because everybody from that time is pretty much dead by now. So it would make sense. I mean, they wanted to cut off, it's now AIPAC, but the Zionist, organization that was doing all the funding that should have been registered as a foreign entity. And, he wanted to register them under FARA. He wanted to, take away their ability to have nukes. And, they didn't like that. So I believe that they killed JFK.
But just to be clear, I mean, you have absolutely no evidence that any Jews killed JFK, do you? Nothing.
Well, I mean, that's not true. I mean, Jack Rubenstein, that was the person that killed the supposed Patsy Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean, he was a Jewish mob guy. And, there's been numerous documentaries tying the, Jewish mafia, the CIA. I mean, I wasn't there, but everything that I've seen evidence-wise points to Israel. Really? And, they're doing it in Epstein Island. They did it in Epstein Island. I mean,
Yeah, but here's the problem I have with this. You say everything you've seen, right? It just seems to me like you see a lot of conspiracy theory stuff. I've read a lot about the JFK assassination. There is zero evidence that any Jews killed John F. Kennedy. Zero. Unless you want to go off into some mad conspiracy theory rabbit hole. I say to you that you make these big statements and you have a huge following of people, many of whom will think, well, wow, if Dan Bilzerian says it, maybe it's true. And that way, I would argue, this is how a lot of conspiracy theory stuff in the end gets propagated and promoted to the detriment of society. Because people like you who are very smart, there's no question of that, and very successful, and made a lot of money being very successful, I'm just curious why you want to be so inflammatory without actually having any evidence. And as you say, to just sit back and say, well, I wasn't there. Well, I wasn't there. Obviously, I wasn't even born. But I know that there's no credible evidence that Jewish people killed JFK. And yet you just say it as a fact, as if somehow we should just believe this.
At this moment, it's evident that Piers Morgan is clearly trying to attack Dan Bilzerian by pointing out his comment where Dan said Jewish people killed JFK. But Dan Bilzerian just explained the context. However, after a few moments, Piers Morgan came back again and asked the same question. You might remember how he accused Dan of supporting Palestine and questioned why he does so. But Dan Bilzerian replied gracefully, saying he is neither Muslim nor Palestinian, so he has no profit or gain in supporting Palestine. Dan also mentioned that he lost hundreds of millions of dollars in business just because he supported Palestine. When Piers Morgan saw there was no way to win the debate with evidence, he started attacking Dan Bilzerian again with the PBD podcast comment where Dan said Jewish people killed JFK.
No, I didn't say it as a fact. I said that's what I believe. And if you look at, the history of people that have criticized Israel, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, JFK, Nixon, I mean, they all have similar fates. And so I don't think that's a coincidence. I also think that today a lot of, quote unquote conspiracy theories have all come true. So, about 2-3 years ago, being a conspiracy theorist, you were a nut job, wacko, whatever. And now it's just like every single one of them seems to be coming true, coming to fruition. So I don't know. I mean, I think once you see the government lie to you and lie to you on a scale like they did during COVID, you start questioning a lot of things. And I think it's healthy to question things. And I think one of the big reasons why I've marched down this path so far is because once I started questioning Israel and once I started speaking out against Israel, I saw the ramifications and I saw the pushback. And the side of right is usually never the side that's silencing people. You know, the people that are on the right side of history are not the ones trying to, cut off free speech or punish people for what they say. Netanyahu testified in front of Congress that they had weapons of mass destruction, which was a total lie, and it was a lie to benefit Israel because that was an enemy of Israel. So what I'm saying is they're the beneficiary of what we are doing, and it's not in the best interest of the United States. So clearly they've got control over our politicians.
Yeah, to be clear again, though,
I'm not saying our politicians are Jewish. I'm saying our politicians are doing what they're telling them to do.
Right. Well, that's slightly different to what you did say. When you said on Patrick Bet-David's podcast as well, they play the victim card so effing much about Jewish people. I mean, do you not understand why Jewish people might feel a sense of victimhood, given that 6 million of them were killed in World War II by a genocidal monster in the Holocaust? Do you not understand why that might make Jewish people feel that, yes, they have indeed been victims?
Yeah, I mean, that figure's been revised, but I believe that Jewish supremacy is the greatest threat to America, and I think it's the greatest threat to the world today. I truly believe that.
What do you mean the figure's been revised? What do you mean?
Well, they said that it was 4 million that died in Auschwitz, and then they said it was down to 1 million, so they've revised the figure.
Well, how many people? How many people do you think were killed in the Holocaust?
271,000 that died in Auschwitz.
How many do you think were killed in the Holocaust?
I don't know, but I would bet my entire net worth that it was under 6 million.
Again, I simply ask you, Dan, what's the motivation for making claims like that? What do you stand to gain by trying to diminish what happened in World War II?
I'm just answering your question. I mean, I'm a gambler, so...
Guys, can you see the devilish behavior from Piers Morgan? This guy is asking controversial questions to Dan Bilzerian and forcing him to answer them. And Dan Bilzerian is being fearless even after knowing they will bring controversy for answering. But when he does answer the questions, Piers Morgan says, "Why are you making these controversial claims?" Like, what? Are you serious, Piers? By watching this debate, I just lost the respect I had for you, Piers Morgan. I know you were sold out, but I didn't know you even sold your soul to Israel. Now, you are being absolutely hypocritical and literally behaving abnormally here. Guys, let me know in the comments, is Piers Morgan behaving right or acting like a paid agent? Let me know your points of view in the comments. I would really like to know them.
But I would bet my entire net worth that it was under 6 million.
Again, I simply ask you, Dan, what's the motivation for making claims like that? What do you stand to gain by trying to diminish what happened in World War II?
I'm just answering your question. I mean, I'm a gambler, so if I think that something is a low probability, then I would bet on it. And I don't know for a fact, but the evidence all says that it was less than 6 million. I mean, just the mathematics don't work. Like, you can't cremate that many bodies. Like, the whole gas chamber thing, it's a very ineffective way to kill people. So when people have researched this and they've done the due diligence, they said it's mathematically impossible.
You see, I'm sorry, but I just find that unbelievably offensive, and I'm not even Jewish. Again, there is clear evidence that 6 million people, almost predominantly Jewish, were killed in the Holocaust. 12 million were killed by the Nazis in total. They were a genocidal monstrosity of the Nazis who wanted to eliminate the Jewish people, and they tried extremely hard to do that.
You said 12 million were killed?
The Nazis killed 12 million people in World War II. 6 million were killed in
You said 12?
6 million were killed in the Holocaust. Or do you not believe that either?
Okay. I mean, Jews have killed far more Christians. Well, Jews have killed far more. Let's just accept the 6 million figure. Jews have killed far more Christians than that. I mean, it's not even close. If you look at the Bolshevik genocide, you look at the Holodomor, I mean, they've killed way more Christians. I mean, they basically invented the genocide. So, they deny the Armenian genocide. Israel denies that. They've lobbied the U.S. to deny that. I'm Armenian. They killed half of my people. So, and I'm not offended by that. If somebody questions that, it's not some crazy thing. I mean, Israel denies the Armenian Holocaust. Okay.
So you just saw the whole video, and I think it's evident and obvious that Piers Morgan absolutely acted as a sold out agent for Israel. He tried to attack Dan Bilzerian and push the Israeli narrative, defending Israel completely, yet not even once did he show any mercy or sadness for the people of Gaza. He didn't criticize even 1% of Israel's cruelty towards Palestinians. Meanwhile, Dan Bilzerian fearlessly defended Palestine and Gaza the entire time, not caring what Western media or anyone else might think. Still, Piers Morgan couldn't accept that. All he cared about was defending the Jews and Israel, showing no empathy or remorse towards the Palestinians. That just proves this debate or interview was totally one-sided from Piers Morgan. He clearly tried to push a certain narrative and didn't stay neutral at all. But I might be wrong, so I will leave this question to you guys. Do you think Piers Morgan was neutral, or did he act as a sold out agent for Israel? Let me know your point of view in the comments. I would really like to know what you think. And please, to help this channel, like this video, share it with your friends and families, and show some support by subscribing. It's free, but it helps me a lot to make more videos like this. So please guys, show some support and subscribe to the channel.